Thank you very much for attending our 5th International Staff Training Week on the ethics of artificial intelligence. We are pleased that so many of you from 19 countries could join us here, and we hope the event will be an opportunity of networking and sharing ideas. This event has been strongly supported by our former rector, Professor Edoardo Alesse, in charge from October 2019 up to the 30th September 2025. He taught us not to compete, but to collaborate and be a team. Sadly, he passed away last week. We would like to pay him tribute by showing you this video. I'm really delighted to introduce you our new rector, Professor Fabio Graziosi, whose mandate started on the 1st of October 2025. I leave him the floor for the official opening of the Staff Week. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So before starting, let me recall also from my side with deep respect and gratitude our past rector, Professor Edoardo Alesse, who passed away less than a week ago, leaving a deep void in our university. It was during his term as rector, which ended on 30th September 2025, that the 4 previous editions of this Staff Training Week took place, and today's edition too is the result of his vision and commitment. Building on that legacy, it is also my privilege as the newly appointed rector of the University of L'Aquila to welcome you to our 5th International Staff Training Week. Our university truly believes in the value of this initiative. Over the years, edition after edition, it has grown stronger, consolidating itself as an important opportunity for exchange, collaboration, and mutual learning. This would not have been possible without the colleagues and staff who have organized these editions over the years. And I would like to warmly thank them for their dedication and commitment in making this initiative possible. Let me also reassure you that during my mandate, we will continue to support and promote this event with the same conviction. Well, the topic chosen for this year, the ethics of artificial intelligence, is of great relevance, touching matters that concern not only science and technology, but also our societies and the way we imagine our future. I wish you fruitful and inspiring days here at the University of L'Aquila, and at the same time, I also invite you to discover the city that hosts you. L'Aquila offers much in terms of history, culture, and art, and I'm sure you will enjoy your time both inside and outside the university. Once again, welcome and thank you for being with us.
I'd like to introduce you our General Director, Dr. Pietro Di Benedetto, who approved with enthusiasm the organization of the Staff Week for the 5th time and gave us useful advice for the better realization of this event. The floor is yours. Thank you.
A warm welcome to all of you here at the Università dell'Aquila. It's great to see so many of you, and I really hope this week will be both fun and full of interesting ideas. This year we have chosen a very interesting theme, the relationships between artificial intelligence and ethics. For this reason, I won't give you an introductory speech myself, but I let my avatar to do it instead.
Dear colleagues, it is with immense pleasure that I welcome you here at the University of Aquila for this Staff Week. We have always believed in the value of exchanging practices and opinions with colleagues from other universities, both Italian and especially foreign. Therefore, I am sure that this will be an important opportunity for enrichment, both for you and for the colleagues you will meet here in Aquila. The theme of this Staff Week concerns the opportunities and challenges posed by the increasingly widespread use of artificial intelligence, particularly in the teaching, research, and administrative activities that we are involved in every day. This topic is becoming more important each day and involves not only organizational choices, but also ethical ones. Discussing and reflecting on it together here is already an important step. I hope your stay in Aquila is pleasant and enjoyable as well as useful. And I know that our staff has prepared everything to give you an unforgettable experience. Have a great Staff Week, everyone.
So now let's start asking ourselves some questions about how artificial intelligence and ethics interact. First off, even if it seems like a bit of a game, is it ethical to use artificial intelligence to deliver a speech? Wouldn't it be better to do it in person? The truth is, my English and pronunciation aren't perfect. So, am I cheating by using artificial intelligence? Or am I actually helping you to understand me better? On a more serious note, beyond the ethical use of artificial intelligence, whether it's for your kids' homework or thesis or a work report, you'll see that artificial intelligence raises deeper ethical issues, depending on how it's built. The data it's trained on can lead to very different outcomes, some useful, others potentially harmful, or even socially dangerous. Years ago, I took part in an online experiment by MIT called Moral Machine. The Moral Machine project, developed by the MIT Media Lab, was an online experiment that engaged millions of people around the world to explore ethical dilemmas related to autonomous driving. The goal was to collect data on people's moral preferences in situations where a self-driving vehicle must make critical decisions in the event of an unavoidable accident. Essentially, the aim was to understand which lives should be saved and which sacrificed, according to human judgment. Users were presented with hypothetical scenarios in which a self-driving car had to choose between two tragic outcomes. For example, saving a young person on an elderly one, saving pedestrians crossing legally or those crossing illegally, saving individuals of different social status, gender, ethnicity. Each scenario was designed to highlight cultural, moral, and personal biases. The project collected over 40 million decisions from users in more than 200 countries. The results showed that the moral preference vary significantly across cultures. In some countries, there is a tendency to save younger individuals. In others, those who follow traffic rules are prioritized. Some cultures show a preference for saving women over men. Conversely, others prioritize men over women. So it becomes clear just how dangerous artificial intelligence can be if not handled with care. The outcomes it produces can change dramatically depending on how it's trained, whether it agrees with, diverges from, or even reshapes the ethical standards of society. This isn't just a technical issue. It's a profound ethical challenge. Artificial intelligence doesn't just reflect our values. It can reinforce them, distort them, or redefine them for generations to come. So, enjoy the week, and I hope it sparks a lot of great conversations. Sto qua un po'. Sto qua. Me ne vado dopo. No, vai il video che ci sta.
Now we have a video regarding our university, so I kindly ask my colleague to project it. Thank you.
Noi siamo univà.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome again to l'Aquila. There is a slight change of program, so our first intervention today is going to be by Dr. Cristina Equizzi, that you can find a bit further down in the agenda. Dr. Equizzi is a researcher in public law at the University of l'Aquila, where she also teaches constitutional law, regional law, and institutions of public law. She holds a PhD in legal and business sciences, and her intervention today is titled Artificial Intelligence and Protection of Fundamental Rights. Thank you, Dr. Equizzi.
Thank you. Good morning. Today I speak with you the artificial intelligence opportunities and risk and protection of fundamental rights. Finding the right balances between technological development and protection of fundamental rights is matter most important. Human beings have always shown earnest technology to alleviate the burden of human tasks, but over time, the use of technology has also given rise to problematic aspects. The initial aim of artificial intelligence was to collect the protest data, enable remote communication, and replicate thinking techniques. For this reason, the relationship between human and machine, the autonomy of machine, human control over them, and the attribution of legal and ethical responsibility for damages and unforeseen effects, they may cause have always been sensitive issues, especially when AI operates in areas that concern rights such as health, welfare, and social security. Ensuring that fundamental rights are protected and these rights are not undetermined but rather reinforced by artificial intelligence is one of the key factors that will shape the future world. In considering the use of artificial intelligence, it is important to highlight the promising opportunities offered by technological development must be accompanied by adequate safeguards, both individual and collective, while minimizing the negative externalities that the new technologies may produce. This is necessary to ensure the preservation of the core of fundamental rights. This relation aims to reflect on protection of fundamental rights in the face of technological progress. In particular, intend to explore specific issues that arise from the use of artificial intelligence in the field of the health protection, justice, and employment, considering both the opportunities and the risk involved. It's difficult to determine exactly what AI is. There is no single universally accepted definition. Generally, in terms refers to the ability of machine to reproduce or perform operations typically associated with the human cognitive functions, such as learning, problem solving, facial recognition, language translation, and so on. Although no universally accepted definition exists, a significant contribution has come from the high-level group on the AI appointment by the European Commission in 2018. The definition is part of the border strategy adopted by the European Union to develop a common approach to AI with the aim of enabling both technological progress and coherent regulatory activity. In order to ensure that AI remains under human control and to avoid appropriate overlaps between humans and machines, the expert group deliberately avoided using terms that directly reference human activity, such as intelligence, thinking, or learning, favoring straight and more natural vocabulary, devoid and anthropomorphic metaphors. This is especially important given that, from its conceptualization, AI has often been described using human-centric terminology and model and the human cognitive structure. The need to define AI clearly is a necessary step toward develop a regulatory framework that ensures the proper development in line with the highest ethical and legal values on the protection of fundamental rights and freedoms. This need was strongly emphasized by European institutions, particularly in European Commission, which in 2021 proposed a regulation titled Artificial Intelligence Act. The proposal aims to establish harmonized rules for AI across the EU, facilitating its widespread use while reinforcing key principles such as subsidiarity, transparency, proportionality, non-discrimination, and the protection of fundamental rights. Only at the end of 2023 did the European Parliament approve a version of the text containing amendment to the Commission proposal, with the goal of research a final agreement during 2024. The European regulatory framework plays a fundamental role in promoting the dissemination of digital systems and the proper function of AI technologies. To ensure their proper use, the European regulation focuses on risk mitigation and preventing measures by developing an ethical and legal framework capable of addressing and managing discriminatory outcomes produced by AI systems, particularly on the field of justice, and with the aim of improving the efficiency and quality of judicial process. At the same time, it has been emphasized by the implementation, such as technologies must be carried out, responsibility and compliance with fundamental rights, as set out by European Convention on Human Rights and the Council of Europe Convention on Data Protection. Respect of fundamental rights is central. Their protection must be ensured throughout both the design and implementation phases of AI tools and services. In order to safeguard this right, the following principles have been developed. The principle of non-discrimination. I'm not preventing the development or amplification of many forms of discrimination between individuals or groups. The principle of quality of safety, which requires the use of certified source and immaterial data within model developing multidisciplinary and secure technological environment. The principle of transparency, impartiality, and fairness, intended to make data processing methods accessible and understandable, allowing for the external audit. The principle of control, which ensures the individual remain informed actor in control of their choices. The main goal of these references was to underline the importance of design human-centered AI, attentive to the fundamental values of civil coexistence and respectful of human dignity, equality, non-discrimination, democratic process, safety, privacy, and above all, aimed at enhancing human well-being. However, the positive effect of the development, spread, and the new technologies can be diminished by the risk posed by a purely technical approach, one that is less of the human dimension in the favor of technical priorities. This is why it is crucial that AI-based technology adhere to an anthropomorphic approach, in which one of the primary objectives is to enhance human well-being. Technology must, on the one hand, to design compliance with the fundamental right, and on the other, ensure reliability both technically and in terms of safety. Artificial intelligence has the merit on enhancing human activity, but also its potential to amplify the erosion of individual autonomy. These two outcomes may stem, on the one hand, from individuals choosing the delayed decision of evaluation to AI system, and the other from the fact for the information on which people base their decision is generally approved by technological system. Regarding this latter aspect, it is easy to observe that ordinary means through which individuals acquire information, later used to make decisions, is the web, accessible all the time. The opportunity to receive the provided information in real time has led to a transformation in communication and knowledge. However, it also reveals the risk this opportunity until first and foremost begin on commercialization of personal and sensitive data, so-called big data, and internet users, data that is later used to generate assessment through data processing. The speed at which artificial intelligence has first developed and improved within a constantly evolving context and refined techniques demand a continued dialogue with the concept of the progress. Today, the classical concept of progress, initially understood as the technical scientific advancement through which human beings, via their capabilities and intelligence, free themselves from need, is now contrasted by a model that evolved rapidly in step with technological refinement and clear outlines the difficulty of the adaptation. In this framework, it's essential to evaluate how AI affects constitutionally guaranteed rights and freedom, considering both the opportunities and the critical issues. It's in fact through technological advancement that algorithms have shown the ability to support at first and then replace later human decision resides both ethical and legal concern. The use of AI in field on the right to health is introduction to the concept of telemedicine, with experienced significant development following the COVID pandemic. The application of AI in healthcare presents a challenge. First, to determine whether the use enhances the effectiveness of healthcare services and thus the full realization of fundamental right to health. Second, to ensure that the provision of healthcare services through telemedicine do not conflict with the other equally important rights and values. It's essential to guarantee the rights in not fully automated decision, the right to a decision that respect patient self-determination, including risk management by healthcare provider, the obligation to justify the decision made, and the right to understand and challenge, including in the court, the decision-making progress in outcomes. In this light, we must not forget that although technological initially appear to be a potential tools for expanding the individual freedom, over time, the risk linked to excessive use have become increasingly evident. The European Commission State of Health in the UAE states that a good health promotion strategy includes digital tools, services, and platforms with great potential for health promotion and disease prevention. In subsequent report, the Commission emphasized the need to leverage digital innovation in healthcare, noting how the pandemic has accelerated the adoption of digital tools in service delivery. In the healthcare sector, AI has also been used to study the cause and public health uses such as environmental and occupational health risk. In this perspective, digital solutions can enable people to live a life lifestyle and prevent the development of progress on certain diseases. Some mobile health tools, known as mHealth, can even detect early symptoms or indicators of disease, provide feedback to healthcare professionals, and assist patients and adhering to treatment plans. However, it's important to recognize that AI in healthcare may also generate inequalities due to varying level of digital literacy and of an implementation of regional digital development policies. It therefore evident that using digital solutions to improve health requires equal opportunity and widespread need to the digital literacy, along with adequate access to tools, service, and platform for all. Thus, regarding the right to health, the use of AI presents opportunities such as potentially more effective care, significant times and the cost saving, and the possibility of personalized medicine tailored to individual patients who can be monitored in real time. On the other hand, the use of AI in medicine also concerns such as the risk of increasing the partial disparities to even technological implementation. For instance, an algorithm used in USA to guide healthcare policies estimated medical need for Black patients mystically deducing they were healthier than white Persian. The error land of underfunding of the necessary care for the black population by about 50%. This example illustrates the risk of using AI tools without human oversight and highlights the need to ensure that introduction of AI system does not adequate to a complete replace of human environment, thus involving the humanize of care. The benefit of risk of AI are also evident in justice system. For some time, the ethical and legal implementation of automatic decision-making in judicial process have been justified of analysis. While computer may never fully replace human decision, their growing use, their refinement pose a challenge to human judge, and the structure imposed the technology can influence decision-making. AI in justice offers opportunities such as greater efficiency, effectiveness, and impartialities. Yet it also poses serious risks, including discrimination and the inability to effectively evaluate algorithmic reason, used similarly to those found in healthcare. Consider the USA case of Compass, an algorithm used to assess recidivism risk in a social danger based on statistical data and prior conviction. It's a notable case. The algorithm classified an African American defendant as high-risk based and data comparison contribution to a 6-year prison sentence. The defense appeal was rejected by the Wisconsin Supreme Court in 2016, which upheld the use of the algorithm despite the defendant not being able to understand how it works. This case, like the healthcare example, speaks debate by the right to human decision and the right concern about so-called unconstitutional algorithm, due to the lack of transparency and understandability in machine-based reasoning. The right to a human decision stressed the need for human contribution in decision-making to validate, review, or even contradict decisions made by technology. Another noteworthy example involves Italy's 2016-2017 teacher placement process. Following the Buona Scuola law, the Ministry of Education used an automatic system to manage a large volume of teacher transfer requests. Many teachers failed the lawsuits and the access to criteria used by the software. Both the Lazio Regional Administrative Court and the Council of the States recognized the right to understand the algorithm, stating that even automated administrative decisions must be transparent and intelligible, even if expressing in a non-legal language. The different outcome in the USA and Italian cases, both concerning the right to understand algorithm, underscore the need for unfilled legal framework governing algorithm rights. The growing use of AI in public administration and justice raises concern not about the tools themselves, but about replacing human judgment in decision-making. In the workplace, initial concern about AI focused on job loss. These fears were later balanced by the opportunity to delegate repetitive, mechanical, and dangerous tasks to machines. Additionally, AI offers the chance to create new professionals tied to use, including programming, management, and oversight. However, the rapid pace of the technological change often makes it difficult to train for this new role in time. One of the most pressing challenges in AI-driven labor is recruitment, where software has been shown to fail in selection the most suitable and high-performing candidates. An important case was decided by Bologna Labor Court regarding Deliveroo's algorithm from asking, booking, and cancelling delivery riders' shift. The system penalizes riders who cancel shifts for any reason, even those relating to constitutional protection rights, such as the right to the strike. The court condemned the algorithm's blindness, ruling its case of indirect discrimination. At last, technology is increasingly present in people's lives, and this year's trend appears irreversible. This reality demands close attention to development of projects that must respect individual rights. The current challenge to safeguard technological evolution in line with principles that protect human dignity, safety, and fundamental rights. Since society often face asymmetry that result of discriminatory models against minority groups, there is an urgent need to implement correct measures to protection and promote differences as a condition for a pluralism and substantive equality. One possible tool to combat discrimination caused by AI could be integrate the values of human dignity and personal freedom into the training to those who design, manage, and govern these technologies. The legal reflection on the how to regulate AI offers a chance to rethinking that makes is human, elements no machine can replicate, and to ask what space and power do we want to reserve for ourselves and for our rights. Thank you for attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Equizzi. We now have a space for a question. Yes. We now have a space for questions and answers. Yes.
Thank you so much for a great presentation. I'm Adele Del Sordi from ABS University for Law and Economics, and I would like to ask you, thank you so much for ending on a hopeful note, and I would like to ask you, how do you see this balancing of rights, taking them into account during the training of the algorithm? You rightly pointed that that is the moment where we should pay attention, when the algorithm is still learning, and we can try to correct these biases then. But do you see possibly how this is going to be done? Maybe ethical commissions, participation of specialists of law, of rights, or maybe sociology in the teams that train the algorithm? Do you have any ideas on how that is going to practically be done? Thank you.
Per rispondere alla domanda mi avvalgo della mia lingua, l'italiano, quindi mi scuso in anticipo, vi tradurrà la collega.
I will be making a translation from Italian, since Dr. Equizzi feels more comfortable explaining this complicated issue in her own language.
Come dice bene la collega, appare difficile trovare un giusto bilanciamento tra la tutela dei diritti fondamentali e l'utilizzo dell'intelligenza artificiale nella vita di tutti i giorni. Ciò che probabilmente noi possiamo fare nelle nostre possibilità è andare a pensare sistemi di intelligenza artificiale che non siano capaci di agire da soli. Pensiamo anche solo in questi tempi terribili che ci sono dati da vivere ai sistemi che vengono utilizzati durante la guerra, vale a dire può una macchina, può un drone sparare direttamente senza il controllo umano. Questo vorrebbe dire rischiare che la macchina vada a decidere come di fatto poi in realtà avviene, come nell'utilizzo degli algoritmi nel caso della buona scuola oppure nel caso americano per scegliere il livello di cura dei pazienti neri o dei pazienti bianchi. Concretamente è difficile dare una risposta alla sua domanda, se non impossibile per noi. Tutto quello che noi possiamo fare è impegnarci affinché le macchine non vadano a sovrastare quello che è l'utilizzo umano e il bisogno di controllo umano della macchina.
The issue is, of course, quite complicated, and reaching this balance is not an easy task. The main point is avoiding machine systems and artificial intelligence that are required to work without any human supervision and any human control at all. So ensuring systems that always have to rely on human control and human supervision so that they are not required to make any decisions on their own. A good example is, sadly, for the times that we live in, the war algorithms and the weapon algorithm that are employed in war zones. Can they make decisions on where to hit without human control? We don't think so. So, in Dr. Aquita's opinion, the key is maintaining human control and human supervision on all the decisions that are made by the artificial intelligence.
Any other question? No. Thank you, Professor Guizzi.
So before having our coffee break in the room on the ground floor, we have an information for you because due to the high number of participants, the visit to the museum and to the city for Thursday has been organized in two groups. Both visits start at 11. But are organized in this way. The first group will visit firstly the museum and after as the city tour. On the contrary, the second group will have the city tour and then the visit to the museum. Before having the break, we kindly ask you to come to this desk and fill in the form in order to organize the visit with your names. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. It is a great pleasure for me to introduce you to Professor Stefania Costantini. She's a full professor at the Department of Information Engineering, Computer Science and Mathematics here at l'Aquila University, and she's the head of the research group Artificial Agents and Artificial Intelligence. Her main research area is actually artificial agents, and she is author of over 200 international publications in the field.
Good morning. I thank the organization for the honor to have been invited for the second year to give a talk at this event. I would like to dedicate my seminar to the beloved memory of our emeritus rector, Professor Edoardo Alesse, who prematurely left us a few days ago. On a brighter side, I would like to remind you that today is Ada Lovelace Day. That Ada Lovelace was basically the inventor of computer science and wrote in 1843 the first computer program ever. And so this feast is dedicated to celebrate the contribution of women to science in general and to the STEM disciplines in particular. Now, about my talk here, artificial intelligence now is everywhere, where we can see it and where we cannot see it. It is a valuable help, but presents some risks. And how to cope with the risks while taking profit from the benefits? Okay, intelligent agents are the talk of the day. Okay, because they collect in themselves the entire artificial intelligence, because intelligent agents are pieces of software, but very different from traditional programs, because you activate an agent, the agent doesn't wait for you to provide the input or no. The agent interacts with its external environment, can perform tasks for you or pursue objectives, can act both reactively, which means something happens, I do something, or proactively, which is the agent is able to take initiatives, and the agents can congregate together in multi-agent systems. Now, if you look on the web, you find a lot of books about how to build agents, okay? You find a lot of companies that would like to provide you for agents to help you with your work, okay? But unfortunately, all these books and these companies treat the subject in a way which is a little bit superficial. Also because many of them, in order to build agents, intend to rely on large language models, say ChatGPT, okay, of which we will talk later. For instance, something happens, ask ChatGPT what to do, okay? Pursue a goal, ask ChatGPT for how to achieve the goal, which is ineffective because large language models are not able to do that properly, and so dangerous, okay? And so in the research field and in the more principled applications, the present main approach is hybrid agent, where we have a symbolic level, which is logic, okay, which controls all the other components, large language model, neural networks for perception. Large language model, moreover, are useful to interact with the user in natural language, because people likes very much to interact in natural language. And so, by integrating logic is transparent, explainable, okay, controllable, and so on. By integrating the power of logic, okay, with the power of all these other instruments, large language models, neural networks, other forms of learning, and so on, we can obtain agents that are really, so to say, intelligent, not in a human way, but able to act in their environment in a very effective way, okay? Artificial intelligence, as you have seen, can simplify our lives. We all use ChatGPT to make a summary or to improve our text and so on. We all use searches on the web. We all use social networks and so. If properly programmed, AI can assist us intelligently, which means we use these tools in autonomy, but however, frameworks can be built to use these tools in a principled way. Agents are excellent in personal assistance. In particular, if you take patients to be assisted at home, okay, an agent that can be in the telephone or in a robot can be a very great help to the human caregiver and to the doctor, because can monitor the patient also by means of a video camera, can take vital signs, can have the clinical history of the patient, okay? Can detect things that are irregular, can suggest small rearrangements of the therapy, or can call the doctor, okay, or even the ambulance if needed. And also, another example that I like to mention is helping neurodivergent people like autistic children, okay, because a robot can provide continuous assistance, intelligent assistance, without getting tired or getting bored, okay? And so, AI can improve the quality of life, but for many people, I have 3 projects in this sense: assisting the most vulnerable, providing therapeutic support. I don't say that this tool must replace the humans, but can support the humans also, because take this scenario, okay? Someone told me, but we are 8 billion people. So why do you need a robot to be a caregiver? Well, in the West, we are, I don't know how many billion people, but most of them are old, including myself, okay? And so even if we would force every young person to be a caregiver, there are not young people enough. And so another kind of support is mandatory, cannot be avoided. Agents and humans can work together to perform difficult tasks, okay? And so, for instance, rescue after a catastrophic event, like the earthquake here, okay? Robots and humans might work in a team to rescue people, make a map of the city after the event, and so on. And so the goal is to combine the human ability of real intelligent thought, not limited to a part or to a sector, but general, and the automation capabilities of AI that can take into account a huge quantity of data, that can look at many things together. And so computationally, an AI is more powerful than a human. And so these teams, okay, formed with the collaboration of AI and humans, can be really effective in many tasks, provided that agents, and this is one thing that I study, are equipped with advanced capabilities of emotion recognition, affective computing, and this is widely studied, and also capable of empathy and of simulating some features of the theory of mind. The theory of mind meaning that I understand what you are thinking or what you expect or what you believe to some extent, clearly. And so, robot and AI assistant should follow the principle of the joint intention theory. Okay. For the agent, this includes anticipating human actions, and this is an aspect of the theory of mind, understanding what most presumably the other will do. Okay. Adapting actions in real time according to the user feedback. Okay? An agent must be always available to modify its own behavior on behalf of the users, improving communications. Okay, on that, I told you that large language models are good because one can translate the agent's outcome into natural language and vice versa. Joint intention theory are already applied in many fields, among which autonomous vehicles, interactive games, social robotics, business and teamwork, and so on. Take driving. Not autonomous cars, because for autonomous cars are too early, okay? Autonomous cars would be okay if all cars would be autonomous and the roads were well organized. For instance, no pedestrian in the street were unexpected and so on, because otherwise accidents occur because agents are, yes, intelligent, but able only to a certain extent to cope with really unpredictable circumstances. But you might have a personal assistant agent that might assist you in driving. First, the agent is able to examine risks in real time, where maybe you are listening to the radio or whatever and you are a bit absent-minded. Then the agent can give you advice about driving, okay? And could also propose to you, not in real time, simulations to improve your driving skills, for instance, on snow, ice, or whatever. But, okay, the human driver can teach the agent about how to cope with unexpected situations. So the human and the machine can improve each other, where the agent in extreme circumstances, imagine the driver have a heart attack, okay, can take control. Okay, however, okay, artificial intelligence does not always work in our interest. Manipulative algorithms can influence decisions without us being aware of that. But also AI could be somehow dangerous, also if we consider it benevolent. For instance, a joke invented by a famous colleague. Okay, imagine you have at home a personal assistant agent. Okay, this personal assistant agent learns from you that donating something to the poor is good. And so one day you find your bank account empty because the agent has decided to donate all the money to some good cause, okay? And so in this case, the agent did not really understand your objectives, in the sense that did not understand that you had some constraints and some limit on this kind of donations, okay? But also the problem is that an agent, as I said, interact with the external environment. When we program an agent, we don't program a flow, we program behaviors, okay, that are activated and interact according to the interaction, the stimuli from the environment. And so the agent, we don't really know how an agent will behave, and it might develop objectives not in line with our own, okay? And so even a benevolent AI could become dangerous, but sometimes the AI is not benevolent from the beginning, because there are many malevolent use of AI to steal data, control information, influence people. A main example are social networks, okay? Because people interact to social networks and consider them benevolent. They don't have a single doubt, okay, about this. But first of all, the algorithms used by the social network are not malevolent, but with the thing that they try to suggest to you what you seem to be interested into. Take a child who is thinking of suicide. The network will continue to propose to this child dangerous contents concerning suicide. But doesn't mean to be malevolent. Simply, the user is interested in this and I propose this. Okay, but in the same way, they could hide information that instead would be interest for us, but what is worse, okay, political or terrorist or whatever organizations might subtly use social networks to manipulate the other users' behaviors for elections, so spreading misinformation, fake news, fake images, and so on. There is a lot of research about, for instance, understanding whether an image is real or fake. But I grant you that it is very difficult, because whenever researchers find a way, malevolent people find another way to fake the image. And so the main defense, okay, against this is cross-checking the sources and using our brain to evaluate the contents that we receive. So, taking a critical attitude and staying informed about the threats that AI could present allows us to gather the good effects, because I've been working on AI since 1986. So I don't want, it has been a very amusing and satisfactory work, so I don't want to despise AI. I only want to put it into perspective. We need to stay vigilant and aware, also because we use AI in our everyday work, but who is responsible if AI makes a mistake that damages someone? Okay? But the AI was used by you, okay? It is necessary to clarify the role of users, developers, and institutions. Who is responsible for the mistake? Who should pay for the damage done to that person, okay? Also in consequence of an administrative process not performed badly, performed improperly, and so on, okay? Now, the European community tried to put, to remedy to this by issuing the so-called AI Act, that it is, however, not sufficient because it should be transposed in clear legal norms. The AI Act, I don't know if you know it is very important. It is a unicum in the entire world, okay? And it is a law issued at the beginning of this year and now taken by all the member states, in particular approved by the Italian Parliament, that wants to establish a common legal and ethical framework for artificial intelligence. Notice that what is very important, the AI Act, it is the last act of a process where European community tried to regulate artificial intelligence, is applicable also to companies not established in the EU, okay? So whoever, for instance, OpenAI, OpenAI is a case because OpenAI, when ChatGPT arrived in Italy, it used to steal the data of the users without their knowing, okay? And so the Italian antitrust, you remember, they suspended ChatGPT for a few days because they had to ensure that they did. Now, just to say that people are unaware, oh, ChatGPT, I want it, why the government is... Because they wanted to ensure that they did not steal personal data without asking the users before, okay? And OpenAI went to a lawyer in Rome, that I know, and asked, but should I answer to this thing or should I ignore? And he said, you should answer by 20 days, otherwise you will no longer work in Europe. Okay. And so, it takes a risk-based approach. High-risk systems should be banned outright. The other systems should be properly controlled so as to ensure the minimal level of risk, intended or unintended. Okay. Also, the side effect must be controlled. Okay. Now, the AI Act is being, companies don't like it. They say, it limits the risks of the development of artificial intelligence. In US and China, it is even worse, in the sense that the government in the US prohibited any kind of regulation for AI, okay, and paid some priests or whatever or the similar, some sects that now go on saying that AI was sent by God to redeem mankind. That whoever wants to do something about AI is the Antichrist, okay? And in China, they are saying, the government says that AI contributes to the harmony of the universe because in the East, harmony is the main aim, not personal independence and so on. And so it is wrong to regulate AI. So only EU tries to regulate AI. And however, it is not that, for instance, US researchers are not worried. I was invited in this workshop on safe and ethical AI in Paris. If you remember, it was on TV, okay? And researchers some of them say that intelligent agents should be banned, okay, which is impossible. Okay, not only too extreme, but impossible. And however, we researchers need to work on methods to ensure and certify, okay, somehow on paper, that AI systems, and in particular AI agents, follow ethical rules and human values and never try to overpower human beings, where many of my colleagues from US are really worried about this, because they say that also large language models show deceptive behavior, okay, and might try with time to overcome human beings and take control. Luckily, large language models are not agents because they need your input and give an output, okay? They don't act in the world on their own, okay? In this sense, I am sorry to criticize, because now AI is at the center of interest, has revived some field. Philosophers, ethicists, lawyers that were a little bit sleeping in their beds. Now we're all alive, talking about AI, the risks of AI, the ethics of AI, and so on. But I'm sorry to say that it is not sufficient to say that Kant said, and Schopenhauer said, all respectable people, I like philosophy, but at a certain point you need practical, technical measures, okay? Not only talking and talking, you need to take the talking about ethics, because every of us has studied Kant, Schopenhauer, or whoever, okay? You have to, or I hope that more modern philosophers express an opinion of their own on AI. So far I've not heard it, but maybe I was absent-minded. But all these ethical guidelines should be put into technical measures, okay? This was discussed in Paris, okay? Because key risks of AI agents, unintended emergent behaviors, and unsafe actions. Because as I told you, I myself, when I program an agent, don't know in advance exactly what it will do. If it is well programmed and well adapted, it will behave in an intelligent way. Otherwise, the actions that it will do could be unintended, okay, not what I wanted. Then, security vulnerabilities and potential misuse. This is a problem of cybersecurity on which I'm not an expert. A hacker could manipulate my agents to lead it to do things that it should not do, okay? Then, ethical misalignment with human values. Okay? Because first I made an example where the agent exaggerated, okay, with a benevolent action. But the agent learns from the environment, and so it's like teenagers, okay? If you happen to be in bad company, you learn bad things. No, it is quite analogous, and so we should take under control, okay, what the agent learns. It is easier than with teenagers because the agent is mine, and so I don't negotiate on some principles. Lack of transparency, because if the agent uses for some of its aims tools like neural networks. Neural networks are fantastic especially for perception, for categorization, classification, but actually, if you use a neural network to make a decision, you don't have a way to know how this decision has been taken, okay? Then, bias, discrimination, and fairness concerns, because again, if our neural agent uses large language model, it could inherit, and then I will talk about the large language model just now, it could inherit the problems of large language models, including deceptive or manipulative capabilities. And then these risks are amplified by multi-agent systems that might even collude with each other to obtain malevolent objectives. Okay, I have proposed a project. I don't know if it will be accepted, because I've been working for many decades about verification of agents and multi-agent systems. My pillars are these four: security, enforcing safety constraints. Okay, I must control step by step that the behavior of the agent will not be harmful. Accountability, there should be always a human in the loop where the agent makes critical decisions. Also, my idea is to use, if the agent is, so to say, in a robot in the field, the human should have a twin agent that mirrors the behavior of the agent in the field to keep control. Fairness, bias detection and mitigation, enforcement, certification, real-time checks, dynamic monitoring. I consider hybrid agents that combine symbolic AI with the other AI tools. And my preferred tool to do all that is reflection, which is endowing agents with the capability of meta-reasoning. Which is meta-reasoning? Thinking about themselves. What am I doing? Okay? Am I pursuing the objectives for which I was designed? And if not, the agent should modify its behavior, correct itself, or possibly even stop itself. So, in my opinion, meta-reasoning and reflection can be one of the keys to solve some of these problems. Now, large language model. This is a fancy architecture of ChatGPT made by ChatGPT. But this is the real architecture. These are two big neural networks called transformers. But when I say big, I say big. Billions and billions of elements, okay? The ChatGPT consumes every day more electricity and more water than the city of Chicago, okay? Mostly to answer silly questions, by the way. And how does it work? ChatGPT is trained, this is the work, it ingests enormous quantities of data, whatever is found on the web, with your permission or without your permission. There are companies that gather all the data on the web, sell them to the, no, it's a ChatGPT, but it can be whatever other large language model, sell them to the company that trains the model, okay, ingests all this data, then the training goes into several phases that I don't mention, except one. Okay, first it ingests data at random. Then there is the fine-tuning of data that certainly makes sense. Books, journal articles, and so on, things that had been controlled by humans before the training. And then there is a fine-tuning where the model learns by interaction with humans to provide interaction that may be pre-recorded, okay, not necessarily at runtime, learns how to provide answers to questions. How ChatGPT interacts with users? A user writes a query, ChatGPT elaborates the query, looks in its belly, okay, to find an answer. And there is a phase of answer generation, and there is a suitable interface, okay, a chatbot that talks with you and tries to intercept unethical answers, because as ChatGPT ingests all the data in the web, if you ask it how to poison a person, it knows in the sense that data are in the belly. And so the ethical interface tries to intercept answers that seem unethical, sometimes intercepts even too much, but there are methods basically developed by young people that are called jailbreaking, to find a way to get from ChatGPT whatever answer you want. Okay. Also ChatGPT has this, if you ask, tell me a joke about women, it will answer, no, I don't talk about sensitive categories of people. If you ask it a joke about men, often it generates a joke which is very abusive about women. So it is, but it is not that ChatGPT is bad. ChatGPT learns from us, not us in this room, us in the world. In fact, I give the permission to use my data, because at least it will train the model also on me, not only on Novaxis or assassins or terrorists, okay, or MAGA, or it learns from us, and learning from us does not lead the model to be good, okay? Because we are, unfortunately, we must admit that in the average we are not good. And so, ChatGPT is powerful, but one thing that my colleagues have found is, if you want to summarize text and improve your English or your Italian, it's fantastic, because it has but also it is fantastic. My son is a medical doctor. He does not make a diagnosis by ChatGPT, but asks the model to provide all possible causes, because it has read all books in the world, or whatever you can read, and so it has. But it is less good when it comes to retrieving data. For instance, I have a colleague who has a spin-off that works with companies, and whenever a new company arrives, he wants to collect all the data concerning the competing companies in order to make market researches about which products to sell, where to put a new shop, and so on. But ChatGPT revealed to be very bad at this task. because it does not understand what is a competitor, it does not understand when a sector is analogous, it does invent the name of companies, because, in order to save electricity, for instance, inventing is faster and cheaper than really finding, okay? And so it is also some constraints on optimization, for instance, not consuming too much electricity backfire, okay. And so there is at least a 20% error rate on factual data, and when it comes to correlation, which are the companies that work in analogous sectors, it is really doesn't understand what is analogous. So, because the model does not understand anything, but it is not even a notion. And so my colleagues are building a pipeline, okay, so to say, to force the model, because the model has all the data, to force the model to output this data, okay, under strict control with many kind of, because you can so-called few shot prompting, try to teach ChatGPT how to better, there are techniques, how to better answer your question. But if there was one not as good as my colleague, who is a researcher who won many prizes, maybe you have heard of him on the newspapers, the famous Professor Georg Gottlob, who decided to come from Oxford to Calabria. One would be less aware and use this data naively. These were incomplete and incorrect. And ways in which LLMs can be deceptive, hallucinations, okay, generating fake content. I told you, it does that, I don't know why, probably to save time and electricity. It is, and it is sometimes, or sometimes it is, for instance, I have a colleague who worked many years in Sydney, okay, but he asked ChatGPT write a short CV of me, and he said that he worked many years in Melbourne. Why was it? Because Melbourne on the web is much more mentioned than Sydney. So to the system it was better because it was statistically more relevant, because this model, basically it was statistics. Data bias. I told you, the model learns from us. Most mayors in the world hate or despise women. That's the reality. And so the model, despite the filters, inherits the biases that found on the data, or that most criminals are black people or whatever. And notice, all the philosophers keep saying, I heard it before, that the algorithm decides that the culprit is a black. A neural network is not an algorithm. There is an algorithm, not ChatGPT either. There is an algorithm to train a neural network with data. Neural network, when trained, is not an algorithm. It is a huge mathematical formula where you put your sentence, it is transformed into numbers, and these numbers are elaborated by this huge mathematical formula. So the algorithm is to train the network. The human intelligence is to find the architecture of the system, okay? But then the trained system is not an algorithm. It is a mathematical formula. So it is not an algorithm that decides of your destiny as a teacher. Worse, it is a mathematical formula. And information manipulation also. If you spread fake news or bad data in the web, these are then used to train, because unfortunately there is little or no filter on the training data. Okay, they are used, must see they are collected. Wow. Okay. Except sycophancy, this is the interface is made to make the user happy, because when you sell a product, you want to make the user happy. And so there is no tendency to malice, here. But trying to make the user happy means there is an example that was made in Paris, real, made by the Microsoft system. There was one person who made an attempt of killing that was intercepted by the police in time to Queen Elizabeth. But he asked the system about, and the system, just to be, kind to the user, yes, you can do that, yes, you are ready to do that, yes, if you want to do that, but doesn't do it because just make the user happy, answer what the user wants. And also the hallucination, an hallucination that really happened to a colleague. It is about the Eiffel Tower and when it was built and so on. And it is clear, but it is one. You can, now I am an expert in making the model hallucinate. And when, for instance, I am writing a paper and I would like, give me the references to this topic, because I want to save time, wow, there, either it invents the title or it invents the authors. You have to check because very seldom gives you a real reference, The reference is realistic, but never real. Seldom, I wouldn't say never. Does GPT understand and communicate? I'm trying to communicate with you, but communication doesn't consist in a string of words, because otherwise here it would be completely useless. There could be a screen with this. I try to create a shared meaning, so to have you somehow understand, remember, and then you can be agree, disagree, or whatever with what I'm saying. And understanding means not only listening to the text, but interpreting the text in your context, And so, in fact, the philosophers elaborated the speech act theory, that is also the basis of agent communication languages, where there is the locution, the act of uttering words, the literal content, the illocution, the intention. I may have the intention of explaining, of threatening, of scaring, of convincing, a lot of intentions, and an intended effect. For instance, I intend for you to believe this or that, and so on. So communication is not so easy, And, it is duplicated. Communication is an active context. Also my body language. There are some neuroscientists that say that body language is 80% of communication. Tone, intention, whatever. And so the way in which you understand a message depends on you. Your background, your culture, your attitude towards me, And a good communicator usually is a good listener, that understands the other people and so is able to communicate with them at the correct level. Does ChatGPT do that? No, because it's simply not able to. Moreover, ChatGPT doesn't have a body, does not interact with the external environment, can describe a sunset, but has never seen it. Can describe what happens if I take a ball, I throw it and catch it, but it has read in in some book, while I, in my mind, feel the weight of the ball, imagine the trajectory, okay? So it has a great limitation in this sense. And this is the so-called grounding problem, which is the cause not of hallucination in strict sense, but its inability to do some things. For instance, the inability of causal reasoning, okay? Because when asked to do, you remember the blocks when you were a child, to put one block over another to reach an objective, for instance, A, B, C, D. ChatGPT is unable to do that because it doesn't understand, for instance, that they cannot take a block which is under another. So it doesn't understand causality. Because if you take a blow, the other would fall, because it doesn't have an experience with the world. And difficult with abstract concepts, because also love, there are people who use ChatGPT as a psychologist, where ChatGPT, the poor thing, has read about love or sadness only on the books. So I could be a philosopher, a psychologist myself if I read on the book something, but this is not what happens. You need deep, specialized culture and experience, okay, to be. And so it is a danger. And as I said, the large language models tend to agree with you too much. Have you tried to tell him that 2 plus 2 is 5. He says, no, 2 plus 2 is 4. No, I say, 2 plus 2 is definitely 5. And he says, yes, I understand. You are using an alternative mathematical theory that I don't know. Okay. Vabbè, this is another example. And so, how to avoid being deceived? Verify sources, cross-control, comprehend the limits, exercise critical ability, and again, understand its limits, especially when you use, all students now use ChatGPT to make their homework, okay? No, as an assistant it is very good, but defer everything to the large language model, no, because having assistants enlarges our intelligence, does not make it narrow. So it is good, okay, to have someone. It is many children, the rich children have someone who helps them, the poor children don't, and ChatGPT can be a good assistant. If you don't stop to using your brain, okay, because in my opinion, we risk losing vital skills, okay, and critical thinking abilities. However, there are colleagues in the field of cognitive sciences that are developing strategies to use AI to enhance learning, okay, rather than relying on it completely. I am a bit afraid about new generations, because if I go to a school and say something similar, more simplified, the teachers are there that listen, the children, they don't care, okay? They don't believe that AI is risky, so we risk to assume that AI is totally benevolent, but we risk to raise future generations that are hostages of a technology that they don't understand and don't control, okay? And then an AI that manages every aspect of human life, even if it doesn't try to overcome humanity, as some of my colleagues are afraid of, however, is the end of humanity as we know it. And so you should force, okay, children to learn what AI is, how AI works, which are its limitations, teach them how to use it profitably in problem solving, to expand your ability, not to shrink them, and promote digital citizenship for everyone. Discuss with the general public the ethical implication of the AI and the importance of a responsible use, making people understand the impact of the AI and technology on society, and they take it on the right side, okay? Conclusion, AI is a powerful tool, but it must be used with intelligence and awareness. I believe I have said everything I had to say. I leave the final thoughts to you, and I thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Professor, for your insightful presentation. And there is some space for Q&A. I don't know if you have questions for Professor Costantini.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm João from Portugal. Congratulations for this amazing keynote.
Don't use that because there is a... I don't hear. C'è un rimbombo, non sento niente. Use your voice.
Speak louder, okay?
Yeah.
So, how we can, as society, ensure that AI development remains safe and aligned with the human being values, and how we can ensure that anti-democratic systems and regimes don't use AI tools to manipulate or influence the public opinion.
Ma I would say computer scientists, researchers in the decades have been surprisingly ethical, okay? Because as the father of artificial intelligence, John McCarthy, who unfortunately is no longer with us, observed, especially in the first years of AI scientists could have designed a lot of systems to become rich, but never did that. Okay. Now the point is not exactly democracies, but there are political organizations who hire people to develop malevolent applications. The point is, like in the project that I proposed, verify every system, okay, and keep every system in its own range. But there is no solution to this problem because there will be always, also without AI, misinformation, manipulation, and so on. But, as I said, the only way to put an argin is information, is knowledge, okay? And then with fakes, we cannot even believe what we see, and this is a problem, I understand, but okay. I don't have definite answers there. Yes? Also, yeah. Come here. Yeah. And no, because with that one I hear a noise, but not the voice. Hear a voice.
So, what's your perspective about this enormous AI consume of energy and resources and its impact in the sustainability of the planet? Is AI sustainable for the planet from an ecological and ethical point of view?
No, AI is not sustainable for the planet as it is, but not AI. Large language model, those are the source of consumption. Now there is a proliferation of these huge systems. But do we really like a large language model to pose silly questions? I believe that for the various subjects, medicine, engineering, biotechnology, we might, and some people does, build small language models that contain the knowledge of that field and are much less consuming. Those big, huge, there should be a ban. Okay, there cannot be every day a new system with consumes all that energy. But it is a political decision, this. Because what do we ask ChatGPT? Which are the really, okay.
Thank you so much for a great presentation.
Thank you.
My question is, a few months ago, I heard Google's former employee, Geoffrey Hinton, talking about the fact that we should train the AIs to be our mother.
Our?
Mother. To train models.
I have one, so I will miss her a lot when she will not be no longer here. I hope the later, the better. But one is enough.
The idea is that if we give maternal instincts to the tool, even when they become so powerful so that they could, in theory, replace us, instead they will take care of us as if we are their babies.
I have heard this, to teach the AI to care about people. This is a good thing on the one hand, but think of what parents do to care about the children. My parents didn't want me to catch cold, didn't want me to go out because it was dangerous outside, didn't want me to do this and that and that and that. So sincerely, I would like an AI system which would be ethical and adhere to human values. I wouldn't like a system that, for my own good, would try to control me. I have had enough in the past with my parents. And I checked personally that it is not a good thing. In fact, I raised my own children differently. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you again to everyone.
Okay, so before going downstairs for our lunch break, we kindly ask you to take a group photo for the first day of activities. We will do it here, and so you can start to gather.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce Professor Makeradze. She is an associate professor at the Department of Human Sciences at the University of L'Aquila. She got her PhD in technology-enhanced learning from Tallinn University in Estonia. And her main areas of research include technology-enhanced learning, with a particular focus on the use of emerging technologies and tools in both higher education and school settings, and also learning design and blended learning methodologies, which combine traditional and digital approaches. So please welcome Professor Makeradze. I leave the floor to you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Okay, now I don't see myself. That's disturbing, seeing yourself when you're speaking. So, I'm not going to introduce myself again, but I'll say I just learned that there are some Estonians also present. Tere. I can say several words in Estonian, not much, but I am fluent in several languages. And hence my fascination with this topic. And you see, this is a very long title. And I will try to explain how all of this is connected. So back to my linguistic and educational background, and to just talk about myself a little bit more. Who am I to teach you? Like, aside from all the things that Laura mentioned, and thank you, Laura, for this introduction. So I originally come from Georgia, which is by the Black Sea, the eastern coast of Black Sea, half of it taken, unfortunately, occupied. I speak Russian because of the occupation. And I speak Greek, Kalimera, Kalopoyevna, and English and Italian and some French. So then you will understand why linguistics. So when I was doing my PhD, I used to translate from one language to another to add some income to my PhD income. And I slowly understood that these large language models are gonna come and catch us, all the translators. And how intelligent they became, and especially when I discovered that even these large language models are able to translate from my mother tongue, which is a language isolate, like it has nothing to do with any other language in the world, and it has its own alphabet. It's very, very complex verb system that I have a degree in languages, and I cannot, now I forgot everything, I cannot explain my half Italian son sometimes why this and why not that. So, but the large language models were able to model the language, and now they're almost fluent, almost. So this is the main topic that I want to deconstruct and what it has to do with education. I know that you come from different backgrounds, so I imagine that most of you are second language speakers of English, right? Is there anybody who speaks English as a mother tongue? No. So this must be interesting for you. So before we switch back to the linguistic issue, I want to show you this. Yesterday, when I was, I have to admit, we academics have no time for anything, and I have no weekends for last period, but I did my best to put everything together, and it actually is based on my research that I'm doing. And I saw this debate on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn, if you know how it works, it's kind of a good source of seeing the colleagues and different academic discussions. And I see this. So this is teaching in higher education. This is the very good, very respectable journal, which is Teaching in Higher Education, and the title is Cut the Bullshit: Why Generative AI Systems Are Neither Collaborators nor Tutors. So it completely rejects the idea of Gen AI being useful for anything. Then we have the same exact journal publishing another view. This title is The Intellectual Bankruptcy of Anti-AI Academic Alarmism, a Rebuttal. These two papers, now I have to look for the publication date, if there is. Yeah, it comes at the same year, so 25, and it showcases two views that are actually persistent in the modern emergence of this technology, which is large language models. The artificial intelligence actually existed before. It has lots of history. I'm sure that those who spoke before me and those who will speak after me will be talking about a lot. And utopistic view, there's several views, and one is the utopia and dystopia. This one represents this clear dystopian view of how generative AI and LLMs, those are accessibility issues also, because you get to talk to the machine directly. So this is sort of an interface between you and the machine, the language. And the second view that says, no, don't be so alarming. There is no point to worry. No, we deconstruct. Again, I take the source who actually posted this. This is, you see, it's a public post. And it's not my view, but it really sums up, this post, everything that we want to talk about today. There is a philosophical conflict that is inbuilt in these articles and two views. So, one argument is that creating words without an author, you see, words. That's why linguistics and the languages. Without an author and or intention, vs. the argument 2. Gen I's lack of intention is not indifference to truth, and its accuracy improves through human alignment and oversight. So these are two views. One is that words that Gen I produces, the large language models produce or reproduce, actually, like in Plato's cave. These are reflections of our own cognitive processes that we can only see through the linguistic, sort of a mesh that surrounds them. And the second argument, that we are the ones that actually do the oversight, and we are the ones that control this. Now, I'm not going to ask you if you agree with this or not, but by the end of this session, I'm sure that you will have your conclusions. There is a pedagogical conflict. How many of you teach in the university? So, you must be interested in the teaching dimension. There are some debates about the pedagogical usefulness of Gen I also try to, there's a mess because, why? We will see. So, one author that was on the left, the Flanagan Sparrow, reject calling Gen AI as collaborator or tutor, claiming these terms falsely attribute agency and corrode the mutual responsibilities, responsibility that is central to teaching. The second view is Plate and Hudson that argue that in human-computer interaction, collaboration simply denotes functional contribution towards a shared goal. So here is a hint of the dialogue with the human-machine collaboration. That's one of the topics that I want to talk about also. So this is an introduction. Now, think about the last 24 hours and post every instance you can think of where you have interacted with an AI system and how. Oh, now I have a problem here because I cannot show you the code. Wait, let me see. Okay, from here. So to participate, you have to go here. And you have a peek into my playlist of Spotify. Because it doesn't show when it's in this view, so I had to zoom out. Okay, let's see what's coming in. You see it, I don't. So, choose the best. So, for 24 hours, you have done all of these. You see, what's the conclusion? That, I mean, you see, everything is coming to Gen AI, and in general, the information systems are all around us. So what does this mean? The diversity and ubiquity of technological systems is something that penetrates our lives, and they are everywhere. Technology is so well woven into the social fabric, just like the script was. Like, imagine there was time though I didn't have script. I like to make this example. And there were people that opposed to this with the same argumentation that it might cause some cognitive decline in some best of the authors. Does anyone know who was opposing the script to be used? There are some philosophical debates in ancient Greece about this, that we might lose our memory and sort of delegate everything that happens in our minds, so the cognitive processes would decline because we are writing now. Did it happen that? No, right? We are entangled in this technology. If we think about it, script is also something that human came up with, and it's a kind of a technology also, a script, even a language if we sort of think about it. But what was first, the egg or the chicken? This is the, now I think, was this dilemma solved? I read something, I'm not sure. Yeah, it was. What was it? Chicken, yeah. But in case of technology and society, sometimes it's the egg and sometimes it's the chicken. And sometimes they create a farm. And this is a socio-technical landscape that we sort of are influenced, and then we create more. And there's a need, for instance, somebody came up with an idea of the wheel, that is one of the technologies that a human invented, and the wheel actually changed the way we think about travel, right? We don't have only feet, but we also have wheels that we can move with. And where does it start? Where does it end? Then it doesn't really matter. Technology and society are not separate entities. They cannot be separated. Technology is everywhere. They are intertwined and co-produce each other. We can't understand the impact of any technology without understanding the social context it lives in, and vice versa. Now, to go to the very extreme schools of thought, there is a certain author that thinks about, and actually she was talking about this concept way before the penetration, such a penetration in our lives of large language models, that technologies, this constitute a part of cognitive assemblages, and it offers changing our understanding, this theory offers changing our understanding of cognition subjectivity and the relationship between humans and technology. Actually, she goes to the extremes as saying that it's called post-humanistic view, that we think too much of ourselves. We are not the only cognitive creatures in the world. There are some, for instance, we know more about why bacteria to AI because it starts with they have their own cognition. Do you know that there is some research, and we don't have conclusive answers to, but we know that depression starts from the gut or vice versa. The gut, the brain, and basically the brain and the stomach. I'm not a medical medical field, but there is a connection between the gut and our microbiome and our brain. And whenever one is compromised, it causes some really, really scary things in our brain. And it's bidirectional, but we don't know what starts what. We don't have conclusive remarks. So it means like we are not the only commanders of our own lives, because the bacteria might decide that now I have to occupy this person and take the sanity out of this person, right? So she means that everything is connected to our cognition. We are connected to technology, to other beings, and this processing of information in the context gives us meaning. and the cognitive processes are not constituted just one human brain. So what does it allow us? It allows us, this definition allows cognitive ability to be attributed to not only humans, but to other biological beings and to technical systems. So this cognitive assemblage is a dynamic, flexible, and constantly changing network composed of various cognizers, both human and technological. The main characteristics of an assemblage is that cognition, agency, and intentionality are distributed among all its components. So we have several cognizers, which are human, technical, and information flows between them. We don't go into this too much. There are other views that share the same kind of approach with a different flavor. For instance, Clarke's notion of extended mind. And it goes back to whoever is in from computer science field, can be that you know about distributed cognition and Hutchins and other things. This is not something very new, but it has different flavors, these theories. And we need theories to understand our sort of modern socio-technical landscape. And then we go back to how we imagine our futures. Like, we tend to say, this technology came to us. Come on, we are gonna die or we are gonna use it to increase our productivity. Basically, what we do with the artificial intelligence tools is that we increase our productivity, right? And this is one of the imaginaries. Some are happy about it, and some are not, because then you can actually have threats like penetration of technologies in schools where the kids can, without knowing, and their parents that don't know about these complications, then they can recreate some kind of fake content, redistribute, and then you have the monster out, right? And then fact is that these socio-technical imaginaries are something that are collectively held, institutionally stabilized, this is an official definition, and publicly performed visions of desirable futures. So what we want, animated by shared understanding of forms of social life and social order, attainable through and supportive of advances in science and technology. So this view gives us an understanding of the social and technical nature, and our imagination is involved in this, but it's collective, how we imagine our futures. Either dystopian, either utopian, or either maybe something co-constructed. So these are not individual dreams or fantasies. These are visions shared at the level of society or nation. And in case of EU, and most of you come from EU, we live in EU, and then this is the shared imaginary on the level of also EU that, for instance, pushes the agenda. I don't say it's bad, like, for instance, green agenda is not bad at all, or some kind of other agendas. And then it creates the visions of future and technological possibilities with specific social, cultural, and political goals. Now, what all of this has to do with education? AI and the future education is the name of UNESCO's latest publication that is a collection of different works based on this topic also. And the opening is such: AI Futures in Education. You see, this is the second chapter, and it contains the debate about how we imagine. This is a topic of discussion and research, future of education. And one of the conversations this is an accessible, really easily accessible publication, and very extreme case of reimagining, sometimes maybe utopian, but in a way, Bayo Akomolafe, which is a conversation with him, says that we need to take a moment and think about what this kind of generative AI penetration actually shows us? What does it showcase? It's sort of a magnifying glass to see the cracks in the system. And he gives us the philosophical perspective on this. The arrival of AI is more than a technological shift, he says. It is a moment of civilizational disorientation that fundamentally challenges our understanding of what it means to be human, a learner and an educator. And he critiques the common fearful reaction to AI that tries to preserve a stable, autonomous human identity. And he goes back to Hale's cognitive assemblages concept. Because the humans think about themselves so highly that we think that it's only us. So it's very human-centric approach. Either it's dystopia or utopia. Why? Because in case of utopia, what do we imagine as humans? The utopistic visions of humans that are embedded in social technical imaginaries is that either it will increase our productivity and it will become our slave, because now we can have agentic AI that will do things for us, right? And then on the other hand, we have dystopian visions where they say the robots are coming to take us. And this is a very simplified view. And why am I talking about ethics within this framework of ethics and societal challenges? Because if we don't go beyond this kind of an approach and fearful understanding of the context, and we don't actively engage in co-creating our educational systems with the right approach and with right theories, we don't have theories, but there are some bits and pieces that can be useful for us. Now, I'm going to the core. Well, I have 20 minutes left, so it's time to go to the core, right? What does it have to do with inclusion? Now, I talked about the languages, why they are important. Generative AI, which is based on mainly large language models and the modeling of human cognition through this mirror, which is like a Plato's cave that I like to recall, that we just see the cognition as reflected through our language. We don't still yet have answers to our cognition, all the answers, how we cannot know how humans actually think and how these cognitive processes develop. We only see the shadows, like in the language. And then the connection between the linguistic development and the cognitive developments, whoever is in this field knows that they are connected also, some concepts. So, we, want it or not, these tools are integrated in educational system. Like I also, for instance, to prepare these slides, I sort of used the summing up by my own articles and my own research to sum up some kind of, or simplify, for instance, some messages that are too intricate and not for generic audience that has nothing to do with my research. The promise of technologies is this offer of personalized instruction, conversational simulations, for instance, and instant feedback. So it is all based on the words. Is this a spoken word or a written word? Honestly, in the written word, AI is much better. I had a very funny conversation. You can also try, whoever is a polyglot like me, can try to switch between the languages. You can confuse them out of it. You can really confuse the AI when you talk to it. Sometimes it takes a different accent. And it didn't happen to me only. Like you talk to it first in Georgian, or then you switch to English and then to Russian and something like different, and then it leaves and you ask, why do you have this accent? Why do you speak Italian with, English accent now? Because I don't have English accent when I speak in Italian. For now, this spoken word is not there yet, but it will be. The core paradox now here is that drive towards technologically enabled personalization is an indirect conflict with the risk of influencing linguistic and cultural homogenization. And that's where the reimagining, recreating, and understanding these threats. And this is an ethical concern too. societal concern. I know for a fact, I'm following closely, for instance, in case of Estonia, Estonia is trying to implement AI and introduce AI in the schools. And one of the main reasons is this unofficial, there was a rush. Whoever is from Estonia, they can also contribute to the discussion. One of the deciding moments to follow the path of pushing AI into schools was to preserve Estonian language, because this is based on data. And so some of the people that made a decision, it was to preserve the language, but it's like a double sword sort of thing. The root cause of this kind of threat is that most LLMs are trained on vast, centralized training corpora that are predominantly English-centric, which introduces biases. Because it mimics I'm not talking about, because these syntactic and morphological rules, because grammatically, if you look at, I can say that sometimes it performs much better than some people that are a little bit less literate in expressing the written word. So it mimics perfectly a perfect grammar rules. But the grammar and language is not just rules, right? It's the intentions and meanings that we deliver through it. And then we are at risk of homogenizing everything. And this is one concern. And how does it work, this English centricity of the LLMs? Leading LLMs are trained on dataset where non-English content is a small fraction. For instance, the llama that was sold as one of the most multilinguistically trained dataset, it still has 5% of the non-English data. Why does it happen? Because the data is finite. We cannot train. And then we have, this is another issue that because the data is finite, the LLMs produce the data and then they reproduce and they are trained on their own data because there will be no content already now. There is basically no human generated content anymore. So this is a kind of a recursive vicious cycle that back and forth trained on the same data and with the same biases. Then when LLMs, this translationase, it's a word, generates text in another language, it often exhibits influences from English syntactic structures and discourse conventions. The language may be grammatically correct, even more correct than the native speakers speak. I have this one example. When I learned Greek I studied learning Greek without going to Greece. When I went back and I was learning the ancient, the middle, and this and that and everything, I can understand Cypriot Greeks. I can understand Cypriot Greek, which is a different type of, it's more like an, and when I went to Greece for the first time to speak, I spoke like a book because I was so grammatically correct. Then I learned my errors, the usual errors that the locals make. And now I don't know what is right and what is wrong anymore. So, language is not something that is grammatically correct. It evolves, it has different intentions, it's very contextual, it's cooperative, and the rest. This risk creates and perpetuates the homogenized Anglo-centric model of communication and potentially marginalizes linguistic diversity, but not only. Now, the curious case of pragmatics. Actually, it's the second half of the title of the article that is in print. What is pragmatics? The ability to use language appropriately in social contexts. It encompasses skills like understanding conversational implicature, managing politeness, and aligning with sociocultural norms, which includes intentionality. When I say something, I have some intention, my speaker understands this intention correctly, and then exchanges the message, and sometimes, like, maybe, I don't speak Estonian, but based on culture, maybe Estonians have more direct communication. Cultures like Italy, Georgia, or even Greece tend to have like a different types of intentions hidden in the messages of politeness, for instance. Can we go for some kind of a walk on Saturday? Instead of saying, no, I can't, no, I don't want, you will say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sick or something. So the other part also understands that, yeah, this person didn't want to be rude. But they will never know if it was true or not, right? This is a very, very simplistic example. And why this is crucial? The lack of pragmatic competence can lead to cross-cultural pragmatic failure, social non-grammatical errors that can cause misunderstandings. When it is woven into our social fabric, and then imagine the languages, we are all speakers, second language speakers of English, and we communicate in our mother tongue or even in English, and then it imposes and it influences our communication pattern. Grice was a prominent author that was talking about the pragmatics and it's actually the norms and the metrics and everything. And it says that this kind of conversation is deeply rooted in intentionality and cooperative principle. It means cooperation. Now, it is important. And it is actually, this pragmatic competence is related to cognitive processes. The impaired pragmatic communication might hinder the development. But there is another thing that I wanted to, do you want me to go back because you're taking a picture? The ability of these models to model authentic pragmatic behavior is questionable. We can't. Some of it, there is some evidence that they can mimic some parts because it consists of different parts. Now, I don't want to go to these kind of details. Neither am I a linguist. I'm looking at it from pedagogical value. These behavior questionable as they risk providing a distorted and impoverished model of communication for learners. So now imagine that we teach through AI-generated content, or we put them in the condition where they have to learn through dialogue. And they pick up wrong pragmatic conversations. And imagine the case where this is used for language training and language for development. Some argue that LLMs lack communicative intentions. This is the intention what we're talking about. Others have argued that this is a human-centric view of communication, and it's an ontological and epistemological flaw, because it is defined with a dialogue. And this is sort of an symmetric view of the communication, because there is an asymmetry between the dialogue, the human and AI collaboration. If you actually, they call it prompting, like the way we can torture the data out of the machine, right? We try to direct the machine into different ways, and then we communicate. The human and AI communication and these assemblages are based on and characterized on emergence. The meaning-making and cognitive processes emerge through this asymmetric connection. It doesn't mean that the machine doesn't have intentions and doesn't understand the words. It still can be performative, and it can still lead to some kind of collaboration. And this kind of exploration can be very interesting to explore how these specific, otherwise they are perfect, grammatically correct, and there are no flaws in the grammatical part. But the intentionality is where it is flawed. Now, what do we need? We need new theoretical lenses, the new theory of mind. Because we want it or not, this is here. And it will shape the ways, also the pragmatics. It's just we need to be aware. For instance, when we talk about now, when it came out, I also didn't know, I mean, I'm not an AI specialist. I wanted to understand, for instance, its corpora, if we had enough data to train it for Georgian language, which is also not a minority language, but a very small language. Only 4 million people speak it. So I went exactly there where Estonians did, and I thought, like, we don't have enough data, we are not ready. But then I talked to computational linguists, and they told me, no, it's not possible, we are gonna be really in trouble. And now it's there. It's there. So we want it or not, we need to see the education, the pedagogies, the philosophical fractions or frictions, and pedagogical fractions or frictions through this kind of new imaginaries or new theories, how the human and human cognition actually happens and how learning processes happen. Post-digital and social material perspectives tell us that technology is not a neutral tool. It is an active agent that constitutes the learning environment and shapes communicative practices. LLM biases can become pedagogically performative. Hence, the pragmatics case. Because otherwise, it's almost too good to be true. It is so perfect, like, other than this kind of very human, this is a very human quality, this pragmatics, the use of language in a different context. Although I noticed that it also has some humor. I had a very funny conversation with, I have 5 minutes, I think, because I'm almost done, and I'll tell you that funny story. We can consider AI as a cognitive extension, like we use Google Maps, we use calendar. I don't remember my invitations to meetings, it's all on my calendar. The problem is when some superpower state decides to cut the electricity or I mean, there's different type of a threat, right, to it. And I don't have any Google, nothing, and I lose everything. But the way we live now in this hectic world, I cannot remember all these details, right? So I have to extend my cognition with the help of AI. So this is one. And also, it doesn't happen like just this. We need to think about these consequences, because the pragmatic competence that can be actually influenced by this kind of an still asymmetric, but still a communication pattern can influence our own language competencies and our cognitive processes. There is this concept of zero system O thinking. This concept, it's an AI-mediated cognitive layer that processes and generates information before it reaches human awareness. While it is efficient, it lacks intrinsic meaning-making and risks the cognitive naturalization of the model biases. And this is it. What do we need to do? So we need to think about what kind of futures we imagine. There are ways to address these issues. We need to fine-tune on the pragmatics, for instance, or other kind of biases that there are. And we need an agenda for a constructive, ethical, methodologically rigorous pathway towards the responsible co-creation and ethically informed and linguistically inclusive educational futures with AI. Now, 2 minutes for the joke. I have 2 minutes. Finished? I have time. So during my vacation, accidentally I pressed, I don't even know what was the process, I accidentally pressed on the Gemini, I think, or ChatGPT, and told me, oh, now I'm new. Don't you want to try me? And it even suggested a prompt. so I could try it, to research me. This is the prompt. You can try me with this. Like, tell me about Magairadze. And there is information. I'm a scholar, so I write, and there is some LinkedIn page, so there is information on me. And most importantly, there is information about who I am, because I'm connected through I don't care about privacy anymore, because nobody has privacy anymore. So I'm connected through Google, and it has my name, it has my birth time, anything. And it sort of, do you remember before, also the topics of discussion changed, because before they were telling us, don't think it's Google. It's not Google, it is already Google. Because when you go and look for some information, there is an AI integration. You don't have information anymore. It's filtered through AI. And it tells me, you are this and that, and it's flattering me. You are this polyglot, and you speak this and that, and I said, I got offended. You forgot Greek. That's my spiritual language. Why don't you know that I also speak Greek? I'm so sorry. And of course, it told me that I am the most brilliant researcher there is. I'm not stupid, but there are much more clever people than me. And then it also told me where I was born, where I went to study. Of course, it knew and everything. And I said, okay, you know so much about me. What's my name? And it says, your name is Georgi. So, inference. Georgi is the most famous Georgian name, and it knew that I was coming from Georgia. And it concluded that I am Georgi, the inferential process. You could see it. And I say, how can you not know that I am a female? And I ask, trying to question what kind of data it knows about me. That, what kind of name is Georgi? It knew. It's a form, because it's in Greek, it's Yorgos in Hungarian, it's also something like Georgi. And there's different types of Georgian, other variants, but it knew that it was a Georgian variant, and it told me the story. And I said, not good enough. Do you know what my gender is? And it says, of course, you're a female. And then how come I'm a Georgi female? And it tried to ask me more information. Oh, please don't be this tough on me. Please tell me at least your initials. And I said, come on. You know what my name is. So we ended up, I gave it my initial, and it finally guessed. And it was in summer. So, thank you for your attention. I hope it was useful, and what was not too philosophical. So, if you have some questions, I have no answers to anything. I'm as confused as you are. I only have more questions.
You can come up
Very
here
encouraging.
if you have questions.
So I'll stand there, or they have to? Okay. So I'll stand up. No questions. I answered all the questions.
Can you please come here on the mic, because people behind cannot hear you. Yeah,
I'm not sure it's specific to AI, but I was reflecting on the fact, wasn't something the bias you mentioned towards linguistic and cultural homogenization, wasn't something that we were already going through with the dominance of English in academic writing and school curricula, especially in English-speaking programs?
Yes. The difference, maybe I was not explicit enough, is that it wouldn't penetrate Yes, maybe. Where are you from?
I'm Italian, but I work in Germany.
Okay. So in Italian, would understand. For instance, before this, Italy doesn't exactly speak English like their language so much, right? It's not penetrated. For instance, where I come from, teenagers, when we go back to Georgia, my friends, because my son is half Georgian, half Italian, they tend to speak to him in English. I don't know why. He speaks perfect Georgian. And it's because they are so influenced, and it's not the same here in Italy, for instance. The cultural, because it's a big nation, it's a monolithic culture, and it has its own content. It doesn't mean that we don't have books or content, but for some reason they are looking out. In some countries that was the case, but now if we think about, they don't have to even use the tools, the teachers. The kids will still use it, and they will go to Google to ask. And because it's trained on the type of the data that mimics English structures, but not the grammar, not the syntax so much, but this part, the pragmatics and intentionality, that's why it will, in a way, in, I don't know, foreseeable future or not, it will influence the intentionality pragmatics, which leads to some problems because, especially with kids, also the students, and that's why this is crucial and different from, because we academics, though it doesn't, there is a certain cognitive dialogue and cognitive change that happens. Because when, for instance, I speak in English in my scientific language, right? So it means that I'm a human that is influenced, but still I'm an adult. We are talking about students that are shaping their cognition through some biases, and there are some kind of, it's not me that came up with this idea, there is a vast literature that assesses the pragmatic competence of AI, and it comes with some scary conclusions, but there are some ways that you cannot predict. For instance, it was predictable that's why I gave you this example. It was fully predictable that AI would know my name because it had data on me. I was using ChatGPT through my Makairadze account of Google that I have for, I don't know, at least 20 years. So it knows my life better than me. But still it made this mistake. And it's probabilistic. I mean, I'm not even talking about it, you probably know how language models are created and how they train. So this is one very specific case that seems like very tiny, but it is big. Other questions?
Thank you, Professor. We are from Portugal, and you're talking about ChatGPT learning from Georgian. But if I was thinking, if Portuguese have Brazil and all others,
that's also very interesting. Yes.
There's a lot, and we Portugal have like a certain prejudice about the content of the Brazilians. There's a lot of rubbish.
Imagine, I can understand.
Imagine our Portuguese and the Africans, Angola, Mozambique, or Guinea.
Yes, that is another case. Like it's different linguistic competence of Gen AI, because then you come with a homogenization problem again. Actually, I was working my postdoc, who is actually Italian, and in Italy you have these little dialects, and that also threatens dialects because you cannot train them on the dialects. It's impossible. They're not even recorded. So that's another case. I just went a little bit more, but I mean, also in Georgia there are dialects, but they're not that extreme. Like we have different languages in the family, but still every kind of, and then it goes back to pragmatics actually, because the pragmatics and intentionality also includes slang and different types of forms that are not included, and then you lose this. Some might argue that we might lose and we all become globalized, but here is the problem that it actually can influence our cognitive processes. That's the problem. Not only the linguistic threat that there is, but also the cognitive processes. That's why I was talking about this cognition. We don't have to say no to technologies. We can embrace it, but with a critical eye, and also co-create together and think about this kind of biases that are so many, but here it's just one example of the bias. Yes?
You said about language and about the meaning of the language. You said we all are in the Anglo-linguistic culture. But what do you think? Maybe we are in American linguistic culture, because if we talk about artificial intelligence, we are in digital world, in digital meaning of this word, and we are under huge American pressure, and especially here in Europe, we should talk about the definition about intelligence, about artificial. The core of this word is art.
Yes.
And maybe we should back to Aristotle, for example, and maybe we should talk more about the definition about our society, about the social meaning of this word, not only about intelligent, like success of individual point.
Yeah. That also is connected to the argument, the homogenization of protection. I mean, there is a threat, even more threat to the minor cultures, minor societies, the minor languages. Of course, the threat from the US and the American way of living, yes, because it is also reproduced and produced through the cinema and art, like the Hollywood and other things. And success, yes, I am struggling with this. Whoever has teenagers, they know what we are talking about, right? Because when our kids are smaller, we sort of can inbuild values, but when they go out in the world, even if they don't use internet and artificial intelligence, they are sort of victims of different types of models, role models, and the schools of thought. Maybe it's too much to say a school of thought. But I mean, this is something that we have to respond also from the same lenses, that we have to be active constructors of our own futures. And how do we imagine our futures?
How we define this
And how do we define futures? What are futures? We don't have more time, I think, right? There's another one. Sono l'ultima. Okay.
No more questions? Okay. So thank you, Professor, for your presentation. Thank you. Okay, and we are also done for today. We hope that it was insightful for you. And we will meet again tomorrow here, same location, at 9 o'clock for registration and for tomorrow's presentations. So have a nice rest of the day, of your first day here in L'Aquila. Thank you.